Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. A huge week in the world of cycling. The first monument of the year has transpired. All the good, bad, and the ugly from Milan San Remo. A couple of other races to get to. An American win, actually, on the international circuit. We'll get to that in a little bit, in the good, the bad, and the ugly. Of course, you have the neutral zone news from the Dauphiné. A little very interesting news item from that. Musings. Team Sky. Just week after week, relentless. Brentford, oh my God. I'm not sure where the musings would be at this point without Team Sky, so I guess there's that. And also, of course, the tweet of the week coming to us from second place in Milan San Remo that we'll get to in a second, Peter Sagan. All of that up on the Broom Wagon. All right, let's get right into the racing. Nokere Corres, that's a race in Belgium, a one-day race. The good and the bad for the Bouhanni family. Nasser gets an impressive win, going away, winning by a country kilometer. Great win. First win of the year for Bouhanni. Taking a look at the sprint. Once he launches, Soupe is his man there, drops him off, perfect position, and just every pedal stroke is launching away from the field, so a great win. Also bad, though, for the Bouhannis, his brother crashing out early. Taking a quick look at that. Touch of wheels, not his fault. Like, how many times is the rider that's most hurt not at fault for the crashes? Bad luck. On the ground, straight into the team car for the brother of Nasser Bouhanni, who at least was able to get himself up and drop out of the race with a little bit of dignity, climbing into the team car immediately. But the ugly, this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen covering and racing in professional cycling. Let's take a quick look at what exactly is going on here. I'll tell you the two protagonists. Chris Boekmans is the Lada Soudal rider, and a young pro called Justin Jules is the more diminutive of the two riders involved in this fracas. Tight bunch, going in for a field sprint, presumably, not far from the finish. And very competitive, lots of pushing and shoving, as all of these races are. And there will be a lot of that in professional cycling. And when it gets out of hand is the problem. When it becomes too much, when riders, there's obvious lines of demarcation, limits what you can do. One thing you should never do is take your hands off the bars and put them on another rider. And that's exactly what we see happening here, especially on purpose. If you have to do that to protect yourself or them, okay. You can see Chris Boekmans in the red jersey, comes straight back, pointing for Justin Jules, hand on the shoulder, and then just stops pedaling. And the riders have to go around. So dangerous. You can see him going down the line of riders. Justin Jules prudently does not take his hands off the bars. One question I have, did not any of his teammates see what was going on here and do something about it? I saw at least 4 guys, and there's another one, taps him on the rear, says, hey, let's get back in the race. But look, if somebody does that to my teammate, we would have had a problem. Boekmans, oddly enough, was not disqualified, and that is a real lack of good judgment on the part of the race commissaire. Should have been kicked out immediately. If he said afterwards, he explained that he exchanged words with Jules, that Jules grabbed his saddle and pushed him around, and was riding in a way that Chris Boekmans thought endangered his teammates, and took matters into his own hands. The story gets a little bit more bizarre than that, though. Justin Jules murdered his stepfather when he was 18 years old, 3 years in jail. Presumably, Chris Boakmans was told it's not a rider to trifle with or push back through the field. But, you know, those are very different situations. And the the world of bike racing gets more and more strange all the time. So when you're in a peloton of riders, you have no idea what the perspective the people around you are bringing to the event. And it's better to keep your hands on the handlebars, no matter what the criminal record is of the riders around you. And maybe that's even better reason that the very strict rules of engagement in professional cycling have to be enforced. So a real failure by the UCI to do something here. And let's hope that Chris Boakmans has learned his lesson. I'm sure he's gotten a lot of criticism on the social media. So best of luck to Justin Jules. You know, if you've gone through something as traumatic as that, riding the bicycle is sometimes the very best therapy anybody can. I know for myself, I always feel better after a bike ride, especially when I'm going through troubling times in my life. The bicycle's been a godsend for me, and I hope it can continue to be that for Justin Jules. His father, by the way, Pascal Jules, I raced against a lot. Fair, tough, one of the most badass French dudes I ever raced against. And so best of luck to both of those guys and their teams. And let's hope this does not escalate, that it ends here and we can move forward. All right, everybody. Next up is Milan San Remo, the most gorgeous one-day race. Absolutely spectacular scenery. Starts in Milano. Now, the idea, it's 300 kilometers long, 180 miles. It's incredibly grueling. You need unbelievable endurance just to finish. And raced it many times, absolutely loved it. Made my home in Italy, not far away from Milano, up in around Como, in and around Lake Como, so not far from Milano. And the idea was it would start in the foggy, damp environs of Milano and would go to the coast where presumably it's a lot warmer, a lot sunnier, race along the coast for another 150 kilometers and finish near the border of France. And it's a spectacular race, absolutely gorgeous. And this year's edition was brilliant. It was so exciting. And that's because we are currently witnessing one of the greatest bike racers ever, Peter Sagan. And he lit up the field on the last climb, set up, by the way, by the work of Tom Daum. The last climb is called the Poggio. Famous. I used to dream about attacking on the Poggio when I was an amateur, which my amateur career didn't last very long. Started late, didn't last long, but I continued to try to break away on the Poggio. I don't think I ever got more than about 3 or 4 feet off the front during the Poggio, and most certainly never stayed away to the finish line. But Tom Dumoulin from the Sunweb squad just absolutely buried himself to make the tempo so hard that his sprinter, Michael Matthews, would have a chance to beat the sprinters. Maybe not drop them, but at least soften them up a little bit, not soft pedal, so that all the other sprinters, Christophe, Demar, amongst others, Degenkolb, Mark Cavendish, who wasn't there, by the way, we'll get to that in a little bit, soften them up a little bit so that Michael Matthews, who is maybe one of the best climbers out of the fast men, is a fair characterization, would have a better chance to win the stage. But the race, excuse me. What happened was Tom Dumoulin went so hard, Michael Matthews got out of position a little bit and set it up for Peter Sagan's attack. And Peter Sagan, so powerful, so fast, I think that he must have read the moment perfectly. And he understood that it had gone so hard, and he was right there in the front, just looking around, riding smooth, the way he does, riding brilliantly throughout the race. And when he attacked, I think most people were expecting it to happen because you saw Sonny Colbrelli right in the front, see it. John Degenkolb right in the front, see it. Michael Matthews a little bit further to the left. We can see him a little bit further down the line of riders. He saw it happening, but was on the wrong side of the road and maybe a little bit too far back to respond for whatever reason. When Sagan went, only 2 guys could go with him, and it was Julian Alaphilippe and Michael Kwiatkowski. And to be able to attack so hard when the peloton is going that quickly, on so close to the finish line, it takes the most amazing talent and will to do that. And hats off to Peter Sagan. Kwiatkowski got on the wheel just over the top with Alaphilippe, and they did work together a little bit, which if you're chasing Peter Sagan, you need all the help you can get. And most of the people in the peloton on the descent of the Poggio, it's so sketchy. It's so twisting. The turns come so hard and fast, and they're like off camber, 180 degrees, and you're very close to the finish line at the bottom. So it is a mad scramble. It's been the place of many crashes in the past. And Sagan could probably drop everybody in the peloton except for 3 or 4 guys when they're at their best. Unfortunately for Sagan, 2 of those guys were able to match him on the climb, Kwiatkowski and Alaphilippe. And at that point, I think the race was won by Kwiatkowski and lost by Peter Sagan. And maybe if Peter Sagan could do it again, he wouldn't have towed them. And let's be honest, he did all the work in that. All the work to assure the breakaway success in Milan San Remo this year. Kwiatkowski and Alaphilippe came around, but did not increase the advantage at all. So they weren't putting hard watts out. They weren't stomping on the pedals and contributing. That was all Peter Sagan. And Sagan's been criticized a little bit for starting his sprint too early, and Kwiatkowski very cleverly opens up a little gap. Sagan looks, boom, he sees he has it, and Kwiatkowski has already started to close the gap and use that as a slingshot to the finish line. That was a brilliant addition, and they won by just 5 seconds. So here is this game being played and against 3 superstars, and the field barreling down behind them. That was one of my favorite editions of Milan San Remo in a very, very long time. Also, the great no crashes. None of the big pileups that happen year in and year out at Milan San Remo. A little bit of a headwind, but mostly calm winds, so that's great that there was no big pileups. Alaphilippe, first, Milan San Remo, and 3rd. Whew, baby. It's a great bike racer and has a big future ahead of it. Maybe the bad for Milan San Remo a little bit, the sprinters shut out. And too bad for you if you can't match Peter Sagan's power on a climb like that. And that's what makes Sagan such a special bike racer. He can win the field sprint if it went well, and he can break away and smash you if you're a sprinter on any kind of obstacle at all. So it's going to be tough to beat Peter Sagan for a very long time in the toughest, biggest bike races on earth, as long as he continues to ride at the same level. Also, the great Corin Rivera from the United States has just won a big race in Italy, 3rd round of the Women's World Tour, the Trofeo Alfredo Binda, her first win on the World Tour, so congratulations to Corin Rivera, a brilliant win. Also, let's take a quick look at Kwiatkowski's champagne bottle opening technique. Probably done a fair amount of champagne drinking. He's got a lot of great wins in his career, but this one is the famous sabering technique, as they say, whereby you take a knife and you basically you hold the champagne bottle at a 45-degree angle away from you. Make sure that nobody is in front of you. You want a wide berth of people and valuable objects or anything that could be broken, because basically the cork and the top of the bottle, that's glass, by the way, goes flying through the air and could be disastrous if it went wrong. So here's Kwiatkowski's sabering technique. Perfect. It looked like Dom Perignon. So, wow, Team Sky, pretty impressive champagne budget for when they win, but Milan San Remo. If I was in that room, I would have bought Michael Kwiatkowski a bottle of champagne also. I don't know if it would have been Dom Perignon though. All right, everybody. Next up is the Neutral Zone News. In the Neutral Zone News, sad news coming to us. Roger Pagnon, French Tour de France champions, passed away, age of 76. Had a chance to meet him at the races when I was a pro, and since then. Condolences to the family, and cycling has lost a true legend and one of the greats, and that's 3 former Tour champions in the last 3 months. So hard times for ex-Tour winners. The Dauphiné, one of the races used to tune up, get ready, get some race miles in before the Tour de France, is going to feature something that I've been hoping for many decades. Since I first rode up this road. It's called the Col de Sirène. It's on the backside of Alpe d'Huez. So you imagine the mountain of Alpe d'Huez and the 21 switchbacks that are as famous as anything in cycling. But there is a small ribbon of blacktop off the back of the mountain that is absolutely stunning. It's got to be a national park of some sort. It's above tree line, a lot of it. There's nothing out there. It is insanely dangerous because there's these drainage bars that come off of it, interspersed throughout the road. And I'm not sure if it's open to cars. I've maybe seen 3 or 4 cars there my whole life, been up and down it many times. And it is an absolutely gorgeous road, and I always hoped that there would be a tour stage that would climb the backside of Alpe d'Huez rather than the famous switchbacks, and then maybe descend the switchbacks, do another climb, and climb the switchbacks. I think that would be the greatest mountain tour stage of all time. And when you see what the Col de Sirène actually looks like in the Dauphiné in June, you will have to agree with me. That's going to be in the Dauphiné, and it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day. I'm going to watch every single minute of it, and it'll be on NBC Sports Network. So glorious Dauphiné, and wait till you see the Col de Sirène. You'll know what I'm talking about. All right, everybody. Next up, the Musette Musings. Okay. Team Sky back in the news again, not for, well, Kwiatkowski, great news for Team Sky, as good as it gets, but some bad news also coming from Josh Edmondson, a young pro still, was on Team Sky in 2013 and 2014, admitted to injecting himself with vitamins. Clear violation of the UCI no needle rule. Needles can be used in therapeutic use situations, which had a lot of trouble with that in recent months. And also, maybe more troubling, although that's pretty troubling, is was addicted to tramadol, which as a year ago asked the UCI, why is a narcotic painkiller still allowed to be used? It's not even on the list. And the reason was, if your sport, let's say, is based on power, like powerlifting, and there is a drug you can take that will give you twice as much power, the governing body has no alternative except to put that drug on the banned substance list. If your sport is about suffering and something takes the suffering away, I honestly don't understand how the UCI can continue to keep that on the list, off the list of banned substances, excuse me. It's a powerful narcotic painkiller and apparently a euphoria producer. So Josh Edmondson, let's not forget, and this is the problem that I have with this whole entire trajectory. Presumably signed for Team Sky when he was 19 years old and raced for them when he was 20, 21, 22 years old. So young, neo-pro, impressionable person, obviously, as every 19, 20-year-old is. And what disturbs me most is the culture within the team. And if the riders are to believe that raced at Team Sky, that say that tramadol has been used regularly and is handed out indiscriminately, the culture on the team and the pressure on the riders and the win at all costs and to your perdition if you fail. You're off the team if you fail. And there's a fine line, I'll grant you that, between performance and a culture of fear and a culture of doing whatever it takes to win. And that's why Dave Brailsford has to go, because he's in charge of that. They have promised us since the beginning, without having any private information. We are not privy to what goes on behind closed doors, but they're the cleanest of the clean. They are above reproach in all of their dealings, especially medically speaking. And that's not proven to be the case. What has come out recently is that they will go as far into the gray area between cheating and racing bread and water. And that's a pathos. That's a vocation. That is, to do that requires commitment. And your team has to be behind you 100%. Win, lose, or draw. We race clean. And that's not the environment at Team Sky. Especially when you have a 19, 20, 20-year-old kid, Josh Edmondson, feeling so much pressure that he's abusing tramadol and injecting himself with vitamins to be the best as he can be and get another contract. When you're that young, you haven't barely begun to develop as a top cyclist. So for that reason, and all the reasons I've already stated, Dave Brailsford has had to go. And I've been tough on Brailsford and tough on the Team Sky, but how many lies, how much cover up, how many of these stories are going to continue to come to light? And we're just getting into the very first days of spring. And by July, this is going to be a tidal wave. And Dave Brailsford should go miles on shore. So, and if he doesn't, this is going to plague Team Sky. It's going to be a distraction from the riders as the season moves on. So, can't wait to hear the next bombshell from Team Sky and David Brailsford. But what I would prefer is that he resigns and a replacement who is more in keeping with their promise to the fans of the sport and the people that follow the sport. And until that happens, I'm not sure how you could reconcile what has happened up to now, especially if you continue to lie about what happened. Dr. Freeman, the medical in charge of the medical program, will be in front of Parliament, presumably at some point in the near future, and the UKAD investigation into Team Sky and British Cycling will continue, and it will be on the Musette Musings. I'm pretty sure in the future that's not the end of this, but time will tell. But Josh Edmondson is still racing, and he's on a British team currently this year, and I don't think there's any talk of him being reprimanded or suspended for violating the no needle policy, so that remains to be seen also. It took a lot of courage for Josh to come forward, so appreciate that Josh Edmondson would shine a little bit of light onto the darkness that is plaguing Team Sky and will continue to do so until there's some resolution. All right, everybody, up next, from Peter Sagan. On a lighter note, the tweet of the week. Okay, tweet of the week. Riflessione notturna. So in Europe, they build where you flush the toilet into the wall. So the little white panel behind Peter Sagan is actually, you push that and it flushes the toilet. Riflessione notturna is reflections in the nighttime. You know, I find myself when I'm going to sleep at night thinking about the day and what I'm going to do tomorrow. And above the toilet, passiamo la vita. Life passes by. Life goes on. Cercando di raggiungere grandi obiettivi. Un buon inizio sarebbe. As you're making your plans, as you are thinking about your objectives in this life, as it passes, a good way to start would be centrare il più semplice. Concentrate on the simplest things. Enjoy yourself. Have a good meal. Do your best. And this is what Peter Sagan has tweeted the day after Milan San Remo. So I think, and if you read a lot of Michael Kwiatkowski's quotes, it seems as if it was a really important accomplishment in his life. And for Peter Sagan, he's so talented. You can feel that. Yeah, he just loves riding his bike. He's happy to be successful, but you get a sense of the joy he feels when he rides, just plain and simple, riding the bike. And a lot of riders, myself included, get caught up in the moment, but the simple pleasures in life are the best. Have fun, everybody. Until next time.